We're blessed today on this Saturday to celebrate this memorial of the Blessed Virgin Mary, to have our minds and hearts on Our Lady on this Saturday, as we do each Saturday. And for this Mass, I chose the option of Our Lady, Handmaid, Mary, Handmaid of the Lord. And of course, we hear that in the Gospel of the Annunciation scene, where Our Lady, after she listens to the message of the angel Gabriel and discerns that it is the will of God, that she calls herself, "Behold the handmaid of the Lord, let it be done to me according to your word." So it's a beautiful thought to think of Our Lady as the handmaid of the Lord, and how she is docile in observing God's precepts and pleasing God. The docility of Our Lady, a loving docility, this obedience, her whole being is at the service of God's will. She's seeking to please God in everything. And of course, we look at Our Lady and we try to copy it. We want to copy Our Lady. We want to be united to Mary. We want Our Lady to be living in us. And so we want to be doing what she did, and we want her to do what she did in us. We want ourselves to be handmaids of the Lord, which means, this pliability, this docility, this softening of our heart and our will, so that God can mold and place what He wants there in our heart and in our lives. This idea of being a handmaid, ready at the slightest desire of God, whatever He wills. So there's this acceptance of God's will, whatever happens to us, this passive acceptance of God's will, but also this positive desire, this seeking of God's will, which Our Lady certainly did. She lived to do God's will, not her own, not according to her own desires and pleasures. So we too, despite our weaknesses and our temptations and desires and this automatic desire to do our own will, we just try to change that. And to copy Our Lady. Ask Our Lady to help us to be docile, to be humble, to be little, to be ready to do God's will, and to desire to please God. Desire to please God and make Him happy, which means to do His will. So let us ask Our Lady to help us to do that, to grant us the grace to be this docile servant of God, obedient always to God and to His representatives here on earth, knowing that if we are not obedient to His representatives, that we're not going to be obedient to God Himself as well. So this docility throughout our whole life in imitation of Our Lady.